Building a World Instead of a Prompt. Development Log, July 20th, 2026. Today was less about creating AI images and more about building the foundation that will allow this project to remain consistent for months, or even years. I realized that creating a good-looking image isn't the hard part anymore. The real challenge is creating a world that feels believable every time I return to it. Most of the day was spent refining the production Bible for Northridge Diner, a fictional diner that I'm using as a test environment for AI filmmaking. Instead of thinking of it as a single prompt, I'm treating it like a permanent movie set. Every wall, every booth, every camera position, and every character should remain consistent from one scene to the next. One of the biggest accomplishments today was expanding the production Bible beyond architecture. Up until now, I had focused primarily on the physical space, the floor plan, lighting, camera positions, and character reference sheets. Today I started defining how the diner actually operates. I created an operational philosophy centered on one simple idea. Hospitality is more important than efficiency. That single principle influences everything else. Regular customers have preferred seating, families are given extra patience, couples receive privacy when possible, and the staff is willing to walk a little farther if it creates a better experience for the customer. As I worked through these ideas, something interesting happened. The AI began making assumptions that sounded completely reasonable, but weren't actually part of the world I had created. It started assigning permanent seating to characters, inventing routines, and filling in operational details that I had never defined. None of the ideas were necessarily bad, but they highlighted an important problem. The AI wasn't just following my production Bible, it was trying to finish writing it for me. That led to what may have been the most important addition today: Canon Protection Rules. These rules tell the AI to distinguish between permanent facts and scene-specific decisions. If something hasn't been established as canon, the AI shouldn't quietly invent it. Instead, it should either make a temporary decision for that scene or ask for clarification. That distinction feels small, but I think it will become one of the most important parts of maintaining continuity over multiple episodes. After refining the production Bible, I moved into creating the opening scene of the diner. Rather than jumping directly into animation, I wrote the sequence as if I were planning a real film shoot. Earl unlocks the front door before sunrise, turns on the lights, starts the coffee, raises the blinds halfway, checks yesterday's receipts, and welcomes Maya as she arrives for work. Eventually, Hal walks in, sits at his usual booth, and begins his morning crossword while Maya pours his coffee without needing to ask. It's a quiet scene, but it establishes the rhythm of the diner and introduces the audience to the world before any major story begins. Top View then generated storyboard keyframes from that script. Overall, I was encouraged by the results. The mood was exactly what I wanted. Warm interior lighting against a cool, rainy morning outside. The characters felt believable, and many of the individual shots were cinematic. However, the images also exposed the next major challenge. Although the AI understood the atmosphere of Northridge Diner, it didn't fully understand the building itself. The architecture slowly changed from image to image. The walls gained and lost decorations. The entrance changed proportions. The counter shifted shape. Windows, trim, and signs drifted from one frame to the next. None of the changes were dramatic enough to stand out individually, but together they made the diner feel like a different location depending on the camera angle. That realization changed my perspective. I had spent weeks creating floor plans, character sheets, and camera diagrams, but I had overlooked something that real film productions rely on: wall elevations. I don't just need to define where the walls are. I need to define what lives on those walls. Every picture frame, menu board, sconce, shelf, clock, and sign needs a permanent home. The goal isn't just to preserve the mood of the diner, it's to preserve its identity. Perhaps the biggest lesson from today is that AI currently understands style better than structure. It can recreate the feeling of a cozy diner remarkably well, but maintaining a persistent world requires much more explicit guidance. If I want this project to feel like a real television set rather than a series of unrelated images, I have to think more like a production designer than a prompt engineer. That realization changed my perspective. I had spent weeks creating floor plans, character sheets, and camera diagrams, but I had overlooked something that real film productions rely on: wall elevations. I don't just need to define where the walls are. I need to define what lives on those walls. Every picture frame, menu board, sconce, shelf, clock, and sign needs a permanent home. The goal isn't just to preserve the mood of the diner, it's to preserve its identity. Perhaps the biggest lesson from today is that AI currently understands style better than structure. It can recreate the feeling of a cozy diner remarkably well, but maintaining a persistent world requires much more explicit guidance. If I want this project to feel like a real television set rather than a series of unrelated images, I have to think more like a production designer than a prompt engineer. Tomorrow's focus will likely be on strengthening that foundation. Instead of generating more scenes, I'll work on documenting the permanent architectural details that define Northridge Diner. Every improvement to the production Bible should reduce the amount of guessing the AI has to do and increase the consistency of every future shot. I'm slowly realizing that this project isn't really about teaching AI to generate beautiful images. It's about teaching AI to remember. And if I can solve that problem, I think the storytelling possibilities become much bigger than this one diner.